We believe a conscious effort towards a gradual economic integration in a manner that fully respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of each state in the Horn of Africa would be the foundation for long-term peace and security in the region. The Horn is a region blessed with abundant natural resources, enterprising and hardworking people, a useful population, and a strategic location along a major global trade route. If the countries of the Horn pool their resources together, align their priorities, and harmonize their policies in a way that fosters economic integration, the region could become an engine for growth for the entire African continent. As the largest and most populous country in the region, sharing borders and communities with all countries in the Horn, Ethiopia believes that it has a unique role to play in realizing this vision. Before delving into how this perspective could be translated into reality with respect to Ethiopia-Eritrean relations, it is important to underscore two fundamental preconditions that need to be fulfilled so that we could attain the lofty aspirations I have just outlined. The first condition is the strategic autonomy of the countries of the Horn. Unless countries of the region follow policies dictated by their own national interest, it will not be possible to realize the agenda of economic integration. Some countries outside of the Horn want to see the region as their backyard. Such powers want to have weak states and feeble governments that are completely subservient to them. A Horn that is an assemblage of client states of various external actors cannot fulfill its destiny of greatness. Countries of the Horn need to reject the hegemonic pretensions of countries that intend to keep the region weak and divided so that they can exploit and monopolize its resources. Regional economic integration cannot be implemented while states within the region remain vassals of external forces and middle powers. The spirit of Gundat and Gura should guide us in the 21st century to safeguard the sovereignty of the countries of the Horn. The project of economic integration needs to be, this is the second condition, the project of economic integration needs to be based on trust and mutual respect. The sovereignty and territorial integrity of each state should be respected. The rejection of hegemonic ambitions should not only be against regional actors, external actors. It must also apply to relationships among countries of the Horn, internally within the region. Ethiopia wants to advance the project of regional economic integration as an agenda that serves the long-term enlightened self-interest of all states in the Horn. The pace of this project should be negotiated and calibrated in a manner that builds trust and confidence. In short, both of these preconditions can be constructed as imperatives against hegemony, internally within the region and externally from those states outside of the region. Ethiopia strives to adhere to this policy in its conduct toward its neighbors and in how it relates to actors beyond the region. Ethiopia's long-term regional policy objective is the realization of a well-functioning, robust, tight-knit economic community of the Horn of Africa as an anchor of regional peace, stability, and prosperity. I will now proceed to present our views as to how the relationship between Ethiopia and Eritrea should be managed in this context. Ethiopia and Eritrea are two states that have virtually one people. In historical and cultural terms, the commonalities between the populations of the two countries are so high that in some respects they are very difficult to distinguish. This is not to deny that there are two countries with their own populations, governments, and a common border. For instance, we talk about the Nordics or the Scandinavians as people who share so much in common. This is not to say that there are no Danes or Swedes or Norwegians or Finns or Icelanders. The same is true between Ethiopia and Eritrea. I emphasize this commonality not to detract from or deny Eritrean statehood, but to affirm the fact that we have a solid foundation for peaceful coexistence and mutual understanding. This foundation makes Ethiopia and Eritrea the ideal candidates to form the nucleus of a regional economic community of the whole. It is within such a broader framework of regional economic integration that the tension between Ethiopia and Eritrea could be resolved. This kind of comprehensive approach will enable us to address the underlying root causes of the problem that have been outlined above. Within such a framework, the national interests of both Ethiopia and Eritrea and other countries of the region would be advanced in a win-win approach. Economic integration could address the security concern of both states towards one another. Institutionalized economic cooperation provides the basis for long-term trust and cooperation in the security realm as well. It could also be the closest thing Ethiopia could offer to by way of decaffeinated coffee. The entry point for an ever closer union and economic integration between the two countries could be a simple free trade area. Building upon this, the two countries could then proceed toward an advanced level of integration and gradual harmonization of relevant economic policies. The priority for this integration agenda must be the free and seamless movement of goods, services, capital, and people between the two countries. The integration model should also make provisions for joint investment in key and strategic infrastructure projects. Ethiopia's aspiration for durable and secure maritime access will be addressed within this scheme, as we have seen in similar integration projects in other parts of the world. Ethiopia is also ready to explore other alternative modalities to gain durable and secure access to the port of Assab, which would meet Ethiopia's long-term needs while also being beneficial to Eritrea. In our view, a broader economic integration model is the most preferable and durable approach for a mutually beneficial long-term cooperation between Ethiopia and Eritrea. It also has the added advantage of being a model that could be expanded to include other countries in the region. It is also a model that would lay the foundation for long-term shared prosperity and security. While it is not an easy project to undertake, it is indispensable for overcoming the long history of conflict that has prevailed between the two countries. The chronic pattern of conflict between the two countries requires as its antidote an institutionalized framework of deep and multi-sectoral cooperation. These ideas and modalities need serious and in-depth discussion. They involve many technicalities and details that need to be worked out. First and foremost, though, there should be political will to explore these options. Unless there is an openness to explore these and other avenues, these two countries at the heart of the Horn of Africa might be doomed to remain locked in a state of acrimony and antagonism for the foreseeable future. This generation of the two countries must avoid such a tragic future. This brings me to the last part of my long, very, very long remarks. Most of you are familiar with a book entitled The Eritrean Affair, written by Ambassador Zawde Reta, a renowned Ethiopian diplomat, journalist, and author who I believe passed away a few years ago. In the prelude of the book, Ambassador Zawde explains how he got interested in the Eritrean issue and recalls his first journalistic assignment as a young royal correspondent assigned to the Gannet al-Ul palace. He recalls events he witnessed in the Gannet al-Ul compound, and I assume in this very building, and the interaction between Emperor Haile Selassie with Tedla Bayru, the then chief executive of Eritrea, which was at that time an autonomous region within the Federation of Ethiopia and Eritrea. He recounts how those events piqued his interest in the Eritrean file. That book has shaped the perspective of a whole generation of Ethiopians on the Eritrean issue. It was an honest and critical account of imperial policy with regard to Eritrea, particularly the decision to resolve the federal arrangement, which the author was very critical of. It was a book that sparked a lot of discussion and debate on the subject. In a fit of immodesty, I hope that this talk within the Gannet al-Ul compound will inspire questions and discussions that would enable us to chart out a new modus vivendi for Eritreans and Ethiopians in the 21st century as brothers and neighbors. This is a call for us to imagine beyond the here and now. This is an invitation for this generation of Ethiopians and Eritreans to imagine a different reality, a new way of working and living together to attain shared prosperity. This requires many tough conversations and facing many hard truths. It requires a lot of healing and soul searching. It also requires the concerted efforts of civil society, political actors, and public authorities. It is not easy, but it is possible. It is doable. Today, we seem to be caught up in the grim realities and foreboding prospects of conflict. So it might seem hard to imagine how this would be possible, but it is while we are in the depths of desperation, in the throes of hostility, that we must summon the courage to imagine a different world. The government of Ethiopia is committed to a future that is different from the past we have all suffered through. We do not doubt that the people of both countries are also ready for such a future. But the elephant in the room, a question that would loom large in the mind of most of you, is how such a vision could be realized in the face of the adamant refusal of the Eritrean government to engage in any constructive way. Yes, the Eritrean government is at the moment playing the role of the spoiler. It is also acting at the behest and in collaboration with states that desire to seek a weak and unstable Horn of Africa. Still, we remain steadfast in our vision for peace and prosperity in the whole. This is so because we believe that intrinsic in the logic of regional economic integration is the long-term, enlightened national interest of all countries of the region. We champion this cause with the realization that although it is not inevitable, it is possible. And politics, as the saying goes, is the art of the possible. And we prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and work for what is attainable. If not today, then perhaps tomorrow, or perhaps the day after tomorrow. Our appeal is for the generation, for the beautiful ones, whose political births we all await across Takazi. Finally, this brings me to the role the international community could play. The international community, especially those actors whose interests in our region are not malevolent, could play an important role by lending their support to this vision. The world cannot afford another 30 years of conflict, poverty, displacement, and chaos in the Horn. Therefore, I call upon everyone here to work with the people of the Horn for the realization of this dream. I urge the international community to disabuse the Eritrean government of its misguided policy towards Ethiopia and the region, and encourage Eritrea to be part of this vision of integration by taking small, tangible steps for a brighter future. Rigid, uncompromising, outdated, and Manichaean conceptions of sovereignty should give way to a more collaborative and integrated economic future from which all of us will benefit. We should not be captives to our history, but masters of our future destiny. We cannot undo what has transpired so far. The pain and suffering generations have endured because of violence, because very often we have opted for violence rather than dialogue in our region. But we can change what will happen today and tomorrow. This is primarily the responsibility of the governments of both states. The government of Ethiopia is ready for dialogue and for a different future. We call upon the international community to exert pressure and encourage the Eritrean government to desist from the provocations and violations against Ethiopia and engage in good faith dialogue. May peace prevail in the Horn. I thank you.